What's up, biscuits? It's me, Andre Salazar. You're watching The Art of Comics, and today I'm excited to talk to you about Alan Moore's book, Neonomicon, with Jason Burrows as the artist. Now, you guys know I am a big Alan Moore Mark fanboy to the extreme. From Hell's probably, it's in my top 3 books, along with Mouse, of all time. I really love, of course, Watchmen, V for Vendetta, all his work. The only thing I haven't really read is Lost Girls. Haven't got that yet. But I decided to get Neonomicon because Providence just came out recently. Providence is the prequel and sequel to this. And I saw this and I'm like, I got to get this because I got a couple floppies, but I never found the whole thing. So I got that. Thought I'll get this first. This is published by Avatar Press, which is, I would say, known for kind of a little bit more, gritty, outlaw, grimy comics. I mean, this is where it is ratcheted up. If we had a rating system, this would be R+. This would be 1X, 2X type of stuff. So it's very hardcore. With violence and sex and everything, which is not really my bag necessarily, but I wanted to give Alan Moore a little, see what he's up to lately. And this definitely is his darkest story. This is, right off the bat, I wouldn't read this if you were at all squeamish or sensitive to things like extreme violence or sex and things like that, because it is pretty hardcore, like just take that put that right there on the table. That said, if you like mature topics or you want to hear what Alan has to say about Cthulhu and H.P. Lovecraft stuff, this might be your book. Let's go ahead. I'm going to spoiler it. Actually, before I spoil it, let me just tell you what I think. For $19, man, I think it's good. I think it's not great as someone who does not know H.P. Lovecraft that well. Kind of a novice level of H.P. If you are really into Lovecraft, you probably would rate this higher. I would say this is a buy. If you're not that much of a Lovecraft fan, I would say save your $19 and get something different. If you're a big Alan Moore fan, I'd say get it. So with that's kind of the general review. We'll go into spoilers here in just a second. It's a very straightforward story. It is kind of a procedural crime, and it doesn't have the number of layers that usually we get with these Alan Moore projects, which actually is kind of refreshing. It's just kind of, there's no narration. It's just this crime, right? And straightforward procedural story. But we learn that the crime's not so simple, and there's this Cthulhu type mythology involved in this story. There's also some unknowns to it, as it's kind of set in modern times, but yet there's these cities that have these large domes over them. So it's got this alternate reality of quasi-futuristic maybe. The art is good, and we'll turn the camera over to kind of look at some of the art. But basically it follows the story of a FBI agent named Sachs, who is chasing down these set of murderers, and he has he's like a Mulder type who looks for Anomaly Theory. So what's really cool about Alan Moore is he does a lot of research. I mean, you learn things. You get your dictionary out. You learn new words. Like, seriously, you learn stuff. And I think if you knew Cthulhu, there'd be so many, Easter eggs type of things in here. I think if you knew Cthulhu, you would get a kick out of so many things because it's referenced everywhere. I just don't pick it all up. So, Uthar cats, I don't know that, right? And all these different things, the courtyard, so I don't really get all the references. But if you're into Cthulhu, you would. And I think that's where Alan shines, is his ability to really be knowledgeable and really kind of break down this whole world and use that knowledge and really create something kind of interesting for those who are into it. We saw that a lot with League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. All his work, really, even at Watchmen, all the Charleston stuff. So that's kind of cool. So Anomaly Theory, back to that, it's this idea of looking for things that are disconnected and finding a pattern in the missing pieces. So if you have, say, a puzzle and you have these 8 pieces that don't fit in the puzzle at all, and they're completely unconnected, finding that kind of a connection with things that are not connected is kind of this anomaly theory. And so he's trying to find connections with these different murders that are happening that have kind of a ritualistic element to it. The graphic novel, this collection, is actually 2 parts. The first one's called Neonomicon. The second's called The Courtyard. Neonomicon, it talks about this FBI agent who eventually uncovers the meaning behind Alco and Aclo, which he thought it was a drug, but it's actually like a power word, which transports you into understanding the Cthulhu kind of underworld or overworld. And he becomes kind of like, once you understand that and see the world for all its permutations, you then kind of start killing people ritualistically. So he becomes a killer at the end. That's how that ends. And then a year later, in The Courtyard, we follow some FBI agents as they then try to find out what happened to their former colleague. How did he get turned, and what's going on? It's more than a drug or some sort of occult thing. And that's kind of fun. It actually is kind of a nice little, neat little story. Alan Moore does such a great job at dialogue of placing the little hints and placing the callbacks in there, to then be referenced and important later on in the story. He really does a wonderful job of stripping things down into just the most important things that are critical, but yet also creating some kind of a characters with these guys. And we follow in the second half the story of these 2 FBI agents. One is a recovering sex addict, and of course she gets embroiled in this whole drama because they have these orgies to bring the Cthulhu creatures to them. So this Orgon energy, again, Orgon energy was a real thing, or a pseudoscience that was believed back in H.P. Lovecraft times, even up to the 80s. So again, the research, the idea of using Lovecraft and all the writers around his world and those that referenced him, using those ideas of Orgon energy and the Cthulhu mythos and all these different writers who were into this stuff, putting those into the stories is actually pretty cool. But again, on the flip side, if you don't want to see, monster orgies, like some kind of a hentai thing, I would say stay away, because we see full on stuff here. So, which is, so there's like abuse, there's like rape, there's those kind of like traumatic, violent things. So that's dark. That's really dark. There's not really an element of entertainment associated with that. Although towards the end, there's a strangeness to it, because there's this rape, but then it becomes somewhat of I don't want to say a friendship, but some sort of an understanding where the monster then saves her, and there's a reason for that. And I kind of don't want to spoil the very end of that, but she survives. It's fascinating. It's pretty good. I'm really looking forward to Providence. I think this might be a little bit more in depth. This will be, I think, more detailed. I think this is going to be the Watchmen type of scale. This is a much more streamlined story, but it's pretty good. It's Alan Moore, it's him, but he's kind of cranked it up to 11. He's with Avatar. He really can go all out, and he goes all out. So let's go ahead and turn the camera over. Let me show you some of the art from Jason, his work. It definitely is different between the first story, Neonomicon, and then the Courtyard. I think there is some improvement in style change there. But yeah, let's go take a look at this right now.
Are you ready?
Okay, guys, let's take a look here at the book itself for a moment. Again, nicely packaged. It's got the glossy paper, which I had mixed feelings on actually, but it does. It's nice, and I do like Jason's work. He's done a lot of stuff for them. I feel like he's one of the kind of the house artists of Avatar. I like the penciling. And I think my big issue, honestly, to be very frank, is the coloring is not my favorite because I'm just not a fan of the airbrush coloring that's used often in these books. That's just my completely personal like taste. But this is our FBI agent who's kind of not a profiler, but anomaly theory specialist, I suppose. But the dialogue's great. It's Alan Moore. You learn things. You're like, oh, what does this word mean? You go look it up in the dictionary. You know, here's the murderers that he's trying to uncover. These cases they're all the murderers are all unconnected, and he's trying to figure out why. Well, we learn out, of course, that it's because they're all worshippers of Cthulhu in some way, or have been open. Their minds have been open to this thing. But it's not bad at all. It's fine. I think these group scenes really is where Jason kind of shines, where showing all these different characters, which is a challenge. I think that's kind of cool. He goes to this like goth club called Zotek, which probably is another like reference to something. And there he sees these bands that are singing in gibberish. Well, the gibberish is the old ones' language, or the dead ones, whatever. The elders. Johnny Carcosa. Carcosa is actually another like symbolic or meaningful name, and so there's just a lot of things that are referenced here that, again, if you knew Cthulhu, like Pickman's erotica, all these things, they're all like Easter eggs. So it didn't like grab me as much because I'm like, I don't know what this means. If I knew it, I'd be like, oh, dude, that's so cool. That's neat. But they have this kind of weird futuristic things too. Again, it's set in modern times, but then there's this alternate reality of these fax machines, these fax booths that I found was kind of interesting. And this case goes back to J. Edgar Hoover in the 1920s, and so that we're making that connection to that time. And there's this image here. I don't see, that's a portal. There's all these little things that are see this language here, Yugath Nag Yadish Nigi Nagai, So he gets tripped. He takes the drug, which he thinks is the Aklo, but the drug's not Aklo. Aklo is going into this other world, and his mind expands, and he sees the universe and sees the possibilities of things and demons and devils, and blows his balls off, and we see a little bit of that. And then he winds up becoming a killer, and he winds up killing people, and so that's how it ends. Now, in the second part of the book, which is the Neonomicon, now we have the story of them trying to track down what happened, right? So there was the Courtyard, and then this Neonomicon. And Mansions of Madness, that's, I think, a title of one of the short stories by Lovecraft. And so we go. So we won't go through all this, but you can see the art style. Again, it's very well done. I think this, if you look at this and you compare that with this, I think you'll notice, especially in the faces and this kind of stuff, this is better. It's just probably just over time, Jason's just improved, I would say, which happens, which is a good thing. They go back to the same place, right, to go track down the guy. We won't go into the orgy stuff in the back. That I don't want to get dinged up by them. But you can tell. I mean, this is a creature. It's yeah. That's the story. That's the art. There we go. And then there's something that happens at the very end, wherein the two survivors kind of speak their language and understand some things. I am excited about reading Providence. I'm hoping that this will be even better. I would say this is definitely a lower tier Alan Moore project and kind of insular to those big fans. It is refreshing to have it be kind of straightforward procedural. I do like that element, and I do like the mysticism stuff that he always puts in, but I wouldn't say it's his best work. This, I'm really curious to see if this is gonna blow it out of the water. So I'm excited. This is also period, so I like period stuff. So I'm excited to read this one next. So thanks for watching. Check out the channel, all my other videos, subscribe, link. What do you think? What's your favorite Alan Moore? Comment, let me know what your favorite Alan Moore is. What do you want me to review next? I will do it. You tell me, okay? Thanks for watching, and talk to you guys later. Bye.